So we're all facing change. We're facing a lot of difficulties right now. I just pray that you can get through this with a smile on your dial in the face of what's going wrong. And that's the challenge right now. We're in a place of challenge. There's the trials and tribulations that Jesus spoke about that there would be. But he said, be of good cheer because I've overcome the world and deprived it of its power to harm you and me. So if we believe that, we can stand on that. At the moment, there's a real confusion going on. There's a lot of stumbling, a lot of doubt, a lot of worry and concern. And I wanted to just chat about that a little bit and maybe pick up the book of Hebrews. It's come to light a lot in the last days because they were in the same place. They apparently were falling away because they were getting persecuted. Jesus hadn't come back like they thought they would, or thought he would, and they were getting discouraged and they were leaving the faith. They were going back to their Judaism and whatever they were looking forward to before Jesus came along. And that can be us too. We can get division right now. People that are taking things and others that aren't, being divided. And it's not a good place to be. I'd just like to read this word for you from Hebrews. And what it says is, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so we're in the right place at the moment to be really believing in what God says and his promises. He promises that he'll never leave you, never forsake you. And in this time you might want some ideas of what to do. A lot of clients have been still moving forward in face of the uncertainty, preparing, getting ready for what's going to come. And there's going to be a lot of companies that aren't going to be moving to the next place because they've left, or they've left their preparation too late. There could be a flood of business needed to finish off works and to start moving into this new building game, let's say, new business that's been held back for so long. It hasn't stopped the need, it's stopped the supply more than anything. And right now, it would be a good time to start your marketing, your preparations, how you put your team together, how you do your employment filtration, all sorts of areas that you may not have got the time for before, and you certainly may not get the time again when everyone's vying for the same business, if you know what I mean. So we're going to talk about icebergs, and you may have heard of that analogy before, but an iceberg is an analogy that we use with our clients, and I'd like to share that with you because it's been highly successful. You can have the best business in the world, you can have the best people in the world, but if they're not motivated and you're not motivated to get things done, and you're living in fear of what could happen, what might be next, the unknown, all the possibilities, which are real, but if you're living in that instead of what you can do, what's that going to mean to the actions forward? Are they going to be stopped a little bit? Are they going to be halted? Are they going to be slower than what they could be? Because right now, do you need them to be fast or do you need them to be slow? Really, right now could be the best time that you'll ever have to do some of the things which you may not have been able to do in preparation. You may have even been wanting to write some articles about your business. Then again, you may want to be able to look at your people and place them into different job roles. You might want to be employing the right people. And one of the things that happens in engaging people, employing them into, or putting them into different job roles, is understanding their iceberg. So I'd like to talk to you about that. We need icebergs. We need to understand icebergs, not just for everyone else, but for ourselves, to be able to put us into action. I hope that makes sense. So what is an iceberg? Well, an iceberg is what is sitting in the ocean. And let's look at that as a person. What you see on top is not driven by the winds. The wind is not going to push a iceberg around. It's what's underlying in the beliefs, the values, the meanings, the importance of what they're looking at, whether or not it will move that iceberg in the way that you need it to go. That iceberg could be yourself, it could be one of your staff members. Let's take an example here of a estimator that I saw in a business, and he was wanted to be put into a job role as a salesman. That's where his boss wanted him to go, yet his boss and himself didn't really know how to get there. So on the approach to this fellow, I asked him a few questions. I said, how important is it to be a salesman? He said, well, I don't really know. I said, what do you think about you as a salesman? He said, I don't think I've really got it. I can't really go and knock on doors or whatever. I said, okay, so what else is there that's holding you back? He said, just no one's ever really shown me how to be a salesman. Okay, so is there any possibility of you being a salesman? He said, maybe. So what I went for was more of what he wanted from the sales role rather than what he actually had. Now some people are fish and they can't be taught to climb a tree. Others are fish that can climb trees. They'll learn to climb trees. We need to work that out before we go too far. So one of the areas of being able to work that out is just doing a bit of a personality, behavioural understanding. You could run through a disc, find out whether he's a detailed person, whether he's like an influencing type person that would have a coffee, emotional person. Would he just be a service type person that just wants to get his job done but okay to say hello? Or is he like a direct, really to the point type of person that says, don't muck around with me, get to the answer, straight to the point. Now, have a look at those 4 quadrants and you might start to pick up whether or not you think you'll be able to move into this role. Now, we can move from one quadrant to the other, but if it's not our nature at all, it's going to be hard to change. So before we go any further with him, let's determine what a sales role would look like in that quadrant. And it'd be an influencing person. They may have some emotional engagement, and they may be an outside the box type of person. They may be able to open into ideas, creativeness, that type of approach, and just a good communicator. So if he's got that potential, which I believed he did, the next question was, what would a sales role mean to you? He said, well, it means that I'd have more flexibility, I may have more money. I said, so how important is that to you? So the importance of that was that he was able to build onto his house because there was a baby coming and they needed another room. If he could get more money, because in the job that he was in, there was no flexibility for extra money. So that was a good thing. And did he really value that? Well, yes, he did. He valued it to the point where he was willing to step out and do another job. I said, well, what's holding you back now? He said, well, I don't know if I'd be accepted as a salesperson. So the next question was about what he'd been already doing and what he'd been dealing with other clients. Was that working? Were you talking with developers and other areas where you really sort of had to sell them a little bit on your concepts? And he said, yeah, well, I have. And the question was whether or not they would support him, they would refer him. And yes, they would. So he's already got a referral list that he could call on to say, this guy is loyal, he's trustworthy, he says, he does what he says, he's not going to muck you around. And that was a good thing. That gave him some motivation. So and his identity, the next step was to move him out of that office, get him out of the environment. It's like a drunk or someone that's an alcoholic. Getting them out of the pub is going to help them a lot. Change the environment, and we start to change the identity a little bit. It's like the old Sigmund Freud. He would have someone lie down on a couch and he'd just go over and over again about their past, and it would just be on and on and on and on about their past. Then there was 3 doctors in Santa Cruz California, in about 1973. And they changed the way Freud did things. He delved into the past, but now these guys decided to change the associations with the words of the mind being in the now. Okay, so we don't go back into the past. We get into what they want. So it's a future. There may be pain in the past which we can use to get a motivational drive into the future, and that in my training is called the axis of motivation, and that's an NLP term. And there's a lot of triggers in life that can hold people back. They may see someone or something, and that actuates an old memory. And in that old memory, it has a feeling. Now, that can come into images in all sorts of ways. You'll see that in shopping and retail areas where they put in pictures and subjective things that will draw you in to wonder, how much does that cost? How much is that going to be? And there's all sorts of programming that happens in your mind all the time. So we want to get that programming for the estimator into the sales area. So changing his environment, does that make sense? Of course. So do we really need to know someone's iceberg, including our own? What we believe is pretty much what we'll see. Unfortunately, there's a fear of man and what it's going to mean to do that. Fear of the unknown, how it's going to be in the business. But if we don't try it, how are we going to find out if it works? Change right now is at the pinnacle. If we don't change, we might just go around in a circle, and when we get ourselves out ready to change, it could be too late. And that is the truth. It could be very much too late. So if we're focusing on what we can do, and this is one thing you can focus on, learn about icebergs, learn about behavioural understanding about your people and yourself. Put a smile on your dial, take it home for a while, and just be focused on them. As you know, focusing on someone else will help yourself. In Romans 15:13 it says, "The God of hope fills me with all joy and peace as I trust in him. By the power of the Holy Spirit, I abound and am overflowing in hope." So I just hope for you to find that peace. Hook into Jesus, hook into the words of God, because in God, in his words, there's no hopelessness, there's no worry, there's no concerns. There's peace and there's joy no matter what the storms throw at you. He'll flatten the seas for you. And you can look into that and you'll see something different. You'll see a new light in the night. You'll be the shining bright light. If you need some help, if you want some more information on this, you want to just chat about it, give us a call or reach out to someone that's been doing this. It's a useful, helpful way of moving forward. It's something that needs to be done with people so that you can develop the team that takes on the responsibility for each role. So they want that responsibility, and then that'll free you up to spend more time where it's more useful, maybe with your family, maybe with your friends, maybe on your marketing, maybe on your sales, maybe it's on your company structures. Wherever it may be, let's use the time that we've got most effectively right now and focus in on what we can do, not the problems, just focus in on the solution. And the solution is God.